Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Kareem. Today's video is going to be a bit different from the other videos. It's been a while, and the reason for that is because of what's currently happening in Palestine, the genocide in Gaza. Even though I'm half Syrian and half Lebanese, I still consider Palestinians to be my people, and so seeing these images and these videos for the past 76 days now has definitely taken a mental toll on me, and I don't feel like I want to talk about the books that I read or the music that I'm listening to. It all feels very unimportant. I can't find it in me to talk about these things and share them as if nothing's going on. I don't know how to continue living my life normally while my people are being exterminated. So yeah, I took a step back from this YouTube channel, from my Instagram page, but I'm back today because on top of everything else that's happening, all these images and these videos that we're all seeing, there's also this dehumanization of Palestinians, especially Palestinian men, that is done by the Israeli politicians and that is endorsed by Western media. I don't think it's normal for such horrific things to be said on TV without any consequences. Seeing your people die is one thing, but then also having to show their bodies to prove that these people are innocent is just... it is so... I don't even know how to... can't even find a word that is proper. It's just dehumanizing, basically. And I feel like one tool that is at everybody's disposal is stories. Stories help to humanize a person. Sometimes when you hear one person was killed and XYZ was killed, there's a difference, there's more impact when you give this person a name. It just makes it feel more real in a way. So imagine an entire story with a beginning and an end. Stories also help to bridge the gap between people that have nothing in common. You may not have the same cultural background, you may not have the same life experiences, but the feelings and emotions are universal. I think this is the power of storytelling. This is what I want this video today to be about. I have been consuming a lot of content, whether that's movies, books, music that is made by Palestinians or that is about Palestine and Palestinians. In today's video, I wanted to share them with you. My only wish is that by the end of this video, you choose just one book to read. And if you don't like reading, pick one movie and watch it and help promote and uplift Palestinian voices. This is just one way to humanize them. So I'm going to be sharing a couple of movies that I watched. I'm not necessarily going to give you my opinion because that's not the point. My opinion doesn't matter. Some books that I've read. So yeah, let's just start with the Palestinian movies. The first movie is called Salt of This Sea. It follows a Palestinian American woman who decides to go back to her homeland in Palestine in order to reclaim her family home and her family money, which were all stolen during the 1948 Nakba. This movie does an incredible job at exploring the daily life of a Palestinian in the West Bank, and there's a lot of emphasis on the discrimination, the daily humiliations that Palestinians there have to go through. The movie opens with the scene in the airport, and I think that scene alone is enough to show you the power dynamic there. It's also a love story. The movie is available on Netflix, at least here in France. The next movie is called Farha. Now this one is a Netflix original, so I believe it is available wherever you live. It is a historical slash coming of age story that takes place during the 1948 Nakba, so the forced displacement of more than 700,000 Palestinians. And we follow a young girl who lives in a tiny village in Palestine, and her dream is to go to the city to pursue her education. And when she finally manages to convince her father to let her do just that, the Nakba starts, and she finds herself trapped in this tiny storage room. And then the entire movie takes place inside that storage room, where we see what Farha sees through this hole that's in the door. We hear what she hears, and so we experience basically the Nakba through her. But I assure you that the few things that you see, the sounds that you hear, are enough to paint the picture. The next one is actually a documentary that is also available on Netflix. It is called Born in Gaza. It was shot after the 2014 war on Gaza, and it focuses on the life of a dozen children who kind of tell us how they lived this war and show us the consequences that it had on their life. This one is definitely the most difficult one to watch. There are countless trigger warnings that I could give you because the reality is, I don't even have words just to describe the pain and the trauma, everything that these children had to go through. All of them have, lost people close to them, they are injured, they are depressed, they have to work to support their family financially. I mean, if their parents are even alive at this point. So yeah, it's a lot. It's very difficult, but I think if you can, we owe it to them to at least listen to their stories and be witnesses. I feel like that's the least that we could do. Finally, the last one is called Wajib, and this one is my personal favorite. Wajib basically means duty in Arabic. It's about this local Palestinian custom that consists of hand delivering wedding invitations. So we follow a father and his son as they go all over Nazareth to deliver the wedding invitations. A lot of it takes place in this car ride where you feel this tension between the father and his son because, you know, the father is a bit traditional. He wants his son to live a certain lifestyle, but the son is more modern. You know, he lives abroad, and there's this clash between them that is felt throughout the movie, and it sparks very interesting conversations. It's very intimate. So yeah, it's about the clash between generations that is such a universal feeling, and I think everybody can relate to that. So yeah, these are the 4 Palestinian movies that I've watched so far. If you want more in-depth thoughts on these movies, you can check out my Instagram page where I actually wrote my full review of each movie. So yeah, let's move on to books now. The first 2 that I'm gonna talk about are books that I've already talked about in the I read books by Arab authors video. So if you want more in-depth thoughts, you can check out this video. The first one is The Arsonists City by Hala Alian, and this is about a family that is composed of a Syrian mother, a Lebanese father, and 3 American children who reunite in Beirut because the father wants to sell the family house in Beirut. By following all these individual characters, you understand how the parents met, why they immigrated to the United States, and what this house represents for each of them. The Lebanese civil war and the occupation of Palestine play a huge role in the background. The next one is You Exist Too Much by Zaina Arafat. This book follows a queer Palestinian American woman as she struggles with her cultural, religious, and sexual identities who sometimes clash. It's about her relationship with her mother, it's about her relationship with all these women and her love addiction. I really enjoyed the writing in this book. Next, we have a book that has become one of my all-time favorites. It's called Against the Loveless World by Susan Abu Hawa. This book follows a Palestinian woman called Nahr. When the book starts, she is in an Israeli prison, and she is basically telling her story, and we find out how she ended up in this prison, from growing up in Kuwait to her then having to immigrate to Jordan after the invasion of Kuwait by Iraq, and then her going to Palestine, and then what led to her being in this prison. And there's very complex characters who have great character development throughout the book. We follow these characters throughout decades, so we really see how they grow, and there's a political backdrop. Obviously here it is the occupation of Palestine, it is the invasion of Kuwait, there's beautiful writing, there's suspense. And yeah, this book basically embodies every single thing that I love about stories, and I cannot recommend it enough. Another book that I read is The 100 Years War on Palestine by Rashid Khalidi. This is a historical book that goes through the entire history of this occupation, from the birth of Zionism and the creation of the State of Israel in 1948 until 2014. It's a very heavy book in terms of information. There's a lot of dates and names and events, so it's a bit hard to follow sometimes, but I think it's a very important book to read if you like reading historical books. I think this one does a great job at explaining the history. Even though I know a bit about the conflict because of my upbringing, I still learned a lot. And if you don't like reading, but you are still interested, there's this account on Instagram and on TikTok. I think their name is Sim Bookstagrams Badly, Sim Book Talks Badly. They are doing a great job of summarizing every chapter and making it so accessible. So I highly recommend these videos if you don't feel like reading this book. And finally, the last one is Returning to Haifa by Ghassan Ganafani. However, I accidentally ordered the stage adaptation by Ismail Khalidi and Naomi Wallace. I am currently reading the actual book. If you don't like reading, I feel like this is very quick, very short. And the story is basically about 2 families, one Palestinian couple and a Israeli woman. In 1948, this Palestinian couple were displaced and they were forced to leave behind their infant. And then 20 years later, when borders are open again, they decide to come back to Haifa and visit their house and try to, figure out what happened. So they find this Israeli woman living in their house. They also encounter their child who ended up being adopted by this woman. It's a very difficult read. Then I have two more books that I haven't read yet but that I'm so excited to read, and they're both by authors that I've mentioned just now. So the first one is Mornings in Jenin by Suzanne Abu Hawa. I think this is a multi-generational story that follows a family that was, displaced in 1948. And if it's anything like Against the Loveless World, I think I'm gonna fall in love with this one. And the second one is Salt Houses by Hala Alian. This one I think is about the Six-Day War of 1967. It's also a multi-generational story, which is something that I've noticed in Palestinian books. The multi-generational aspect plays such an important part, and that's because the trauma of what happened in 1948 is passed on from generation to generation, and this love of the country, this need to come back, is also passed on, and that's why I think the Palestinian cause never died. It's only getting stronger and stronger, and why it will never die. I also want to read this other book by Ghassan Kanafani, which is called Men in the Sun, I think. I also want to read the poetry collection by Muhammad al-Kurd. I want to read The Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine. I want to read I Saw Ramallah. There's the memoir by Ahad Tamimi. Minor Detail by Adanya Shibli. There are so many books that I want to read. So these were all the movies and books that I wanted to share with you today. I'm gonna make another video where I talk about music and Palestinian artists that I've discovered recently and that I've been listening to quite a lot. Initially I wanted to make it all in one video, but I think the video is going to be too long, so I'm gonna separate them into movies, books, and then music in another video. Thank you for watching. If you made it this far into the video, I hope you feel inspired to watch at least one of the movies that I've mentioned or read one of the books. If you do, I would love if you could share your thoughts with me personally or in the comments. I would love to discuss and have a conversation. If you have recommendations of other movies and books that I should check out, please also don't hesitate to share them with me or in the comments for everyone to see. I have a long list of movies and books, but I'd happily add more to it. Again, I think sharing and uplifting Palestinian voices and stories is just one tool to help fight this dehumanization of Palestinians. Thank you again for watching. Don't forget, free Palestine. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.